Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Jacqueline and I am a total ballet nerd. And in this video, I want to talk about how you, as an adult coming back to ballet, can find a good class. So here are 4 questions that can help you get an idea of the true experience that class will offer. 1. Ask the studio to describe the difference between the levels. Sometimes on a studio's website, you might see different class levels described in different ways, and oftentimes the differentiator is years of experience. Never done ballet before, has 1 year of experience, has 3, has 5. You can say as well, hey, I've read the description, it says a year of experience, but what's the expectation that has come from that year of experience? Is it just an idea of how the class runs, the logistics, the etiquette, the functioning, things like that after a few years of taking ballet, you just kind of take for granted? So is the expectation that you know that? Are there any steps that are just expected to be known? Now, obviously, if they only have 1 class a week, there's no difference. But you can ask them how they manage different levels of students within the same class. So if there's a student who has never done ballet before versus a student who's coming back into ballet, how do they manage that in the same class? Does it skew very much towards the student that needs to learn how to do the thing and a lot of time is spent there? Or does it skew more towards the higher levels in the class with the expectation of the beginner to catch up? This will give you an idea of how the class is managed. And I would ask the studio how much time is spent at the bar during the class. This is a little bit nuanced, and it kind of depends on the teacher. There are some teachers that like really long bars, an hour long. There are some teachers that do half an hour at the bar and spend the rest of the time in the center. And sometimes that really just depends how they want to run their class. But if you ask the studio and almost the entirety of the class is spent at the bar, it's more likely that this class skews to a beginner, how to do this thing type class than anything else. Personally, the style of class that I like the most is 45 minutes to almost a full hour at the bar, and then the rest of the time in the center. I actually prefer center, but bar really does set me up to do well in the center. A true beginner class, in my opinion, should teach how a class functions. So the workflow, the logistics, the knowledge that you're starting at the bar and moving to the center, that you then might have exercises going from the back or the corner. That the teacher is willing to clearly describe that this exercise, because of the way it moves in the space, should start from the back and should start from the corner. These are things that you learn over time as you take classes, but as an adult learner, it can be really irritating to not just be told this information up front, because it would be so much faster for you to just know it up front. Second question, what's the goal at the end of the session or at the end of the year? It could be to launch students into the next level. This might be to have students know how to do certain steps, or know how to string together different exercises, or be able to pick up exercises more quickly so that the class can flow more smoothly. Question 3, how long does a student stay in the beginner level? And this will give you an idea of how confident the students feel at the end of a beginner level to then move on to the next level. Number 4, and this is a big one, how do students get corrected? And do students get corrected? Oftentimes in adult classes, you just seem to not get corrections. And so you're thrown an exercise, you do it, and you move on to the next one, and that's it. The problem is, if you're here to grow and learn and improve, how can you without getting the fixes and the correction and the feedback along the way? So if students are getting corrections, is this a matter of the teacher in front of the class explaining what was done wrong and moving on? Is it the teacher in front of the class explaining what went wrong, explaining how to fix it, and then moving on? Is this a teacher in front of the class explaining what went wrong, how to fix it, shows you how to implement it, encourages the class to try it as a whole, identifying when people are doing it well, walking around and helping, and then moving on? Ultimately, you want them to do this last version of it. Imagine this. You spend your childhood, teenage years, early 20s dancing. You might have danced 1, 2, 5, 7 days a week. And then you stop because life gets in the way. And so you pursue that path for a few years and then realize that you're missing ballet. And so you go looking for a class. You either go back to your old studio or you type in ballet classes near me. And you find a whole lot of kids programming for 2-year-olds, for 7-year-olds, for 12-year-olds. And then you find an adult ballet class. Maybe you find a studio that offers a couple of ballet classes a week. Beginner 1, beginner 2, beginner and intermediate, something like that. And you think, well, I've spent all these years dancing quite intensively. I'm really not a beginner anymore, so I'll do the intermediate class. So you take the class and you realize that pliés are really, really hard and you're shaking. And then you move to center and you're spending 30 minutes of the class learning how to do a pas de bourrée. Clearly, there's a disconnect. Here's the thing. It's not that you can't improve how you're doing it. It's not that you can't clean up your technique. You're always going to be able to do that. This is kind of the infinite game of ballet. But if you've spent all this time training, you fundamentally know how to do the thing. And now you've spent a lot of that class learning how to do a thing you already know. But clearly, the class as it's being termed isn't accurate for these different level of students coming in. And often this will happen because you have studios that will have one class or a couple classes a week for this community of people who have such varied experience that it ends up being a situation of, let's see who shows up in the class and we'll teach at the minimum viable level for students to be able to get by. And you'll have some teachers that will skew a little bit more towards the beginner and teaching how to physically do a step, and other teachers that will skew more towards the intermediate or advanced students in the class who, figure everyone else in the beginner level will figure it out. But it really doesn't cater to either. What is the difference between the levels? What is the goal or the target at the end of the session or the end of the year? How long do students stay in the beginner level, and how many times do they repeat it? And does the teacher correct the students? And if so, how? Going back into ballet after a pause can be really, really hard. Hopefully these tips help you. Hopefully you have a great experience. I would love to hear about some questions that you ask studios when you're looking for classes, or what your experience is trying to find a good class to go back to after a long break. If you found this video valuable and are looking forward to more, please subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye.